You walk into a room full of people you don't know. The energy's unclear. Some people talk in circles, some seem bored. You want to stand out, not in an overwhelming way, but in a way that makes people remember you, even after you leave. That's where the compliment combo works its magic. This social hack isn't just about saying something nice, it's about stacking two specific types of compliments in a precise order. First, a personal trait, something about who they are, not what they have. Second, a behavioral recognition, pointing out an action they took that impressed you. The order matters. A compliment on someone's personality opens them up, and the second one on their actions confirms you actually paid attention. Let's say you're talking to someone at a cafe after a group meetup. You might say, "You've got such a calm, grounded energy. It really stands out. And the way you explained your point during the discussion, super clear and thoughtful." Boom, that's the compliment combo. The first makes them feel seen. The second makes them feel respected. People often give generic compliments like, "You look nice," or "Great job." While appreciated, they don't stick. What sticks is when people feel understood. The combo hits emotional and intellectual levels. It doesn't just boost their mood, it places you in their mind as someone who sees deeper than the surface. But here's the twist. You can't fake it. If you force it or use it too often without meaning it, it backfires. The power is in genuine observation. You must pay attention. Watch for what's unique about someone, then acknowledge it with warmth. When used right, the compliment combo creates what psychologists call positive association anchoring. Your presence becomes linked to feelings of pride, confidence, and connection. People look forward to seeing you again, not because you flatter them, but because you made them feel alive in their own skin. Try it with friends, co-workers, even strangers. Practice by observing people and noting one personal trait and one behavior worth complimenting. When the time feels right, drop it naturally into the conversation. There's something deeply human about being appreciated, not just for how we look or what we do, but how we show up as people. Use this combo sparingly, genuinely, and with intent, and watch relationships warm like fire catching dry wood. The name drop resurrection. Names carry power. They're not just labels, they're personal soundtracks wired deep into our self-identity. Most people don't realize how much it lights us up when someone remembers our name, especially when we didn't expect them to. That's what makes the name drop resurrection so effective. It's the art of reviving someone's name in conversation after time has passed, creating a surge of warmth and recognition. Imagine this. You met someone briefly at a weekend event. Quick chat, nothing major. A week later, you bump into them at a bookstore. You smile and say, "Hey, Sam, right? We met at the open mic night." Instantly, Sam feels something. It's not just that you remembered the name. It's that you remembered them. That moment becomes meaningful. The resurrection works especially well when the person thinks they've been forgotten. Most people expect their names to disappear after one meeting, so when you revive it, it feels like magic. It's as if you've given them social CPR. But there's more to it than memory. This move builds trust. Subconsciously, we associate people who remember us with loyalty, care, and intelligence. It shows you're attentive, that you're not just passing through people, you keep them. You don't need perfect recall. The trick is to store names in your short-term social memory and bring them back in the next encounter. Use context to help, where you met them, what they were doing, a detail they shared. Sometimes saying, "I think your name was Lisa," is just as effective. It shows effort. The hack also works virtually. Say you talk to someone once online, maybe in a comment thread. A week later, you mention their name in a reply. That's digital resurrection, and it works just as well. People notice. One key warning: don't overdo it. Using someone's name too often in a conversation feels robotic or manipulative. The power is in the unexpected mention, the subtle revival, not constant repetition. Think of it like seasoning, not the main dish. In social settings, everyone wants to feel remembered, not just for what they said, but for who they were. Use this hack to show people that they mattered to you, even in small ways. You'll be surprised how many doors open simply because you remembered someone's name. The mirror move. You're sitting across from someone, maybe during a casual chat or a first meeting. You notice they lean back slightly, smile half-cocked, arms loose. Without thinking, your body subtly echoes theirs. You mirror, not in a creepy way, just enough to match their comfort level. You've just used the mirror move, and chances are they're about to feel unusually in sync with you. This social hack is based on one of the oldest subconscious bonding tools in human interaction. When people feel seen or understood, they relax. And one silent way we signal understanding is through body language synchronization. The mirror move works because it sends this message without a word. I'm on your wavelength. It's not mimicry. You're not copying them like a mime. It's about matching energy and posture. If they're casual, loosen up. If they're animated, mirror that light energy in your own way. If they pause, you pause too. These subtle alignments build an invisible bridge between you and them. Here's where it becomes especially powerful. It helps create instant rapport. The other person won't realize why they feel so comfortable with you, but they will. Our brains are wired to like people who move like us, speak like us, behave like us, even when it's unspoken. Of course, this has limits. If you go too far, it's noticeable and awkward. The magic of the mirror move is in how naturally you fold into someone's social rhythm. It's about being present and responsive. It can even help you navigate difficult conversations. When tension rises, mirror calmness. You can steer the emotional tone without saying a word. Interestingly, this technique can flip. If you're confident enough, others may start mirroring you. That's a sign of strong influence, but to get there, you often have to mirror them first, building trust before guiding energy. In practice, use the mirror move to test emotional temperature, to deepen connection, or just to set the vibe right. Start by observing posture, gestures, speech rhythm. Then, without effort or exaggeration, gently align. Think of it like a dance, quiet, responsive, and fluid. In a world full of loud words and online noise, sometimes the strongest connection is silent. Mirror wisely, mirror with intent, and let that unspoken rhythm turn strangers into allies. The 3-second rule of entry. Timing is everything, especially when entering a new social setting. One of the simplest yet most powerful hacks for reducing social anxiety and increasing your presence is what's called the 3-second rule of entry. It's not about waiting. It's about not waiting. The moment you spot an opportunity to join a conversation, speak to someone, or walk into a room, you act within 3 seconds. No delay, no second guessing. Just go. Why 3 seconds? Because after that, your brain starts working against you. It begins to analyze, predict, worry, and catastrophize. You'll imagine all the ways it could go wrong. What if they think I'm weird? What if I interrupt? What if I mess it up? But if you act within 3 seconds, your mind doesn't have time to build resistance. You override hesitation with action. Picture yourself at a networking event. You notice a small group laughing in the corner. You think, I'd like to join them. If you wait more than a few seconds, you'll probably talk yourself out of it. But if you apply the rule, you move, step toward them, smile, and maybe say, hey, you all look like you're having way more fun over here. It doesn't have to be perfect. The courage to act is what changes the game. This rule works beyond social settings too. It applies to phone calls, compliments, introductions, or speaking up in meetings. If you have a thought to say something and don't act within those critical seconds, the window closes and regret walks in. The psychology behind it ties to what's known as limbic friction, the mental resistance your brain generates when it perceives even small risks. The 3-second rule short-circuits that resistance by jumping past it before it grows strong enough to hold you back. This technique also helps with building confidence. Each small 3-second win stacks into a larger sense of self-trust. You begin to see yourself as someone who acts, someone who steps forward instead of shrinking, and people notice that. Confidence is magnetic, and this rule is a fast track to developing it, even if you're shy. Of course, not every situation allows for instant action. You still need to read the room and respect timing. But in most casual or semi-formal situations, hesitation is your enemy, not your friend. The moment you feel the pull to connect, speak, or move, take the step. In a world where hesitation steals opportunity, the 3-second rule gives it back. Use it like a launch button for courage, because action favors the bold, and boldness begins before the 4th second ever arrives. The echo hack. There's a moment in every conversation where someone just wants to feel heard, not fixed, not judged, not even necessarily understood in full, just heard. That's the heartbeat of the echo hack. It's one of the most underrated, disarming tools in human interaction. And it's simple. You repeat back a key word or phrase someone just said to you with the same emotional tone. Let's say someone says, "Ugh, today's been exhausting." You respond, "Exhausting?" Not with sarcasm or disbelief, just a soft, reflective tone. They'll likely nod and continue. "Yeah, back-to-back meetings. Barely had time to breathe." And now they're opening up, not because you asked questions, but because you echoed a word they emotionally invested in. What's happening here is subtle, but powerful. You're signaling, "I'm tuned in. I'm tracking you." This doesn't require deep insight or intellectual response. It only requires attentiveness and tone matching. That's the beauty. The simplicity makes it accessible to anyone. There's even neuroscience backing this. When we hear our own words reflected back, our brain lights up in regions linked to validation and connection. Echoing also shows that you're not just passively listening, you're actively engaging in their emotional world. The key is to keep it natural. If someone says, "I finally got the job offer," and you repeat, "The job offer?" With a warm, curious inflection, it encourages elaboration. You're not leading the conversation, you're allowing it to expand. That's why this hack works better than most active listening techniques. It doesn't interrupt the flow, it fuels it. Be careful not to overuse it. Echoing every statement makes you sound like a parrot, not a person. Choose moments where there's emotional charge, when a word carries weight, or when someone pauses after saying it. You can even use this hack in moments of tension. If someone says, "I just feel invisible," softly echoing, "Invisible?" gives them the green light to go deeper. It calms defenses and invites trust. Used wisely, the echo hack becomes your invisible bridge. It helps you enter other people's emotional space without force, without pressure, just reflection. In a world full of noise, echoing is a quiet act of empathy, and it always leaves a mark. The vulnerability vibe, bomb. People often think the strongest way to connect is by being impressive, telling exciting stories, flaunting achievements, or staying perfectly composed. But there's a far more powerful way to connect on a deeper level, being vulnerable first. That's what the vulnerability vibe bomb is all about. You drop it not to explode weakness, but to release authenticity into the room. This doesn't mean spilling your traumas or making people uncomfortable. It means sharing something real, something just slightly outside the armor most people wear. When done right, It creates a shockwave of openness, breaking surface-level barriers and inviting others to do the same. Say you're in a new group setting and everyone's doing small talk. Instead of blending in, you say something like, "Honestly, I wasn't sure I'd even come tonight. I've been feeling super disconnected lately." That's the vibe bomb. You've just lowered your guard slightly, and watch what happens. Someone will respond, "Same here, actually." Or, "That makes me feel better. I thought I was the only one." You've just built real connection. We're hardwired to respond to vulnerability. It signals trust, courage, and shared humanity. But most people wait for others to go first. The hack here is that you go first. You create the safe space, and others follow. This is not about turning every chat into a therapy session. Vulnerability can be subtle, saying, "I'm nervous but excited," before a presentation is enough. Or admitting, "I don't always know what I'm doing with this," in a team meeting. These little confessions build trust capital fast. There's a fine line though. Vulnerability has to be earned. You don't spill your darkest fears to strangers or drop heavy emotion in the wrong setting. It's about emotional awareness, knowing when to share, how much, and with whom. When done with tact, it doesn't make you look weak, it makes you magnetic. The reason this works so well is because people are tired of masks. Everyone's wearing one, the strong one, the cool one, the always fine one. When you take yours off first, you give others permission to breathe, and maybe take theirs off too. Use the vulnerability vibe bomb to lead with truth, not polish. In a room full of highlight reels, the one who's real always stands out. Not because they're perfect, but because they're relatable. The exit portal. Most people think social skill is all about how you start conversations, but how you end them. That's the hidden art. Enter the exit portal, a social hack designed to leave any interaction gracefully, warmly, and memorably. It's your personal method of closing a conversation in a way that doesn't feel like a shutdown, but more like a door gently swinging closed with the promise it might open again. The worst exits feel abrupt or awkward, someone glancing at their phone, backing away mid-sentence, or just muttering, "I gotta go," and disappearing. These endings break the rhythm. They often make the other person feel rejected or unimportant. The exit portal avoids that by combining 3 ingredients: appreciation, reference, and soft future tethering. Let's walk through it. You've been chatting with someone for a few minutes at a party, and it's time to go talk to others. Instead of vanishing, you say, "I've really enjoyed talking about that project with you. Your take on it gave me something to think about. I'm going to go say hi to someone I haven't seen in a while, but I'd love to pick this back up if we cross paths again tonight." That's a clean exit portal. You acknowledged the connection, "I've really enjoyed," referenced something meaningful from the conversation, that project, and left a door open, if we cross paths again. This creates a sense of closure without disconnect. It's called a portal because symbolically, you're not shutting someone out. You're stepping through to another social moment while leaving the connection intact. And people notice that. It shows emotional intelligence, awareness, and respect. You leave behind not cold silence, but a good feeling. Often, people will even come back to you later, grateful you gave them space without making it awkward. This also works digitally. If you're in a long online chat or DM and want to wrap up, you can say, "This has been such a refreshing convo, seriously. I need to log off for a bit, but thanks for this. And feel free to shoot me a thought later if something pops in your mind." You close with grace, not a ghost. The best part, it makes you more approachable in the future. People aren't afraid you'll trap them in never-ending chats, and they trust your social flow. That's what makes the exit portal a secret weapon. In a world full of ghosting, vanishing, and abrupt fade-outs, this technique makes you the person who exits with kindness, clarity, and just the right touch of charisma. The callback connection. Ever noticed how inside jokes bring people closer? Or how a small shared moment becomes a personal bridge? That's the idea behind the callback connection. A clever little hack where you reference something small but specific from a past interaction to reignite familiarity and warmth. This isn't about grand gestures or deep history. It's about remembering one detail someone shared, a phrase, a story, a laugh, and casually looping it back in the next time you see them. It might be days, weeks, or even months later. When you drop that detail, you spark a feeling. Wow, they actually remembered. Let's say you met a guy named Mike at a volunteer event. He mentioned how obsessed he is with putting too much hot sauce on everything. A few weeks later, you see him again and say, "Hey Mike, eaten anything spicy enough to make you cry this week?" He'll likely grin and instantly remember that previous connection. You've just created a callback, and with it, a deeper sense of familiarity. This works so well because humans are wired for recognition. We want to feel like our presence and stories stick with others. And when someone proves they were listening, especially to something most people would forget, trust forms. Rapport strengthens. You become someone who sees me. There's also a layer of status built into this move. When you remember, it suggests you're confident enough to pay attention. People who are socially insecure tend to focus inward, worried about how they appear. Those who feel secure, they observe others. That's why the callback, while simple, makes you feel high status and thoughtful all at once. It works in flirty conversations, friendships, business, or even family dynamics. Just avoid overdoing it. If you constantly bring up the same thing, it feels forced. The goal isn't to repeat, it's to rekindle. It's like striking a match off an old stone and warming the air for a second. You can even double layer this with humor. Reference something they said in a playful twist. Did you ever finish that novel you started 5 times? Or still drinking triple espressos at midnight? These casual callbacks not only show memory, they show personality. In a noisy world where most people forget names 5 minutes after hearing them, the callback connection makes you unforgettable. Not because you're loud, but because you quietly remembered what mattered to someone else. The curiosity hook. Conversations die quickly when they stay flat. That's where the curiosity hook comes in. A tactic to spark engagement by planting just enough mystery to make someone want to know more. It's not about being cryptic. It's about giving people a trail of breadcrumbs that leads straight into their interest zone. The hook works because humans are wired to chase open loops. If you say something slightly unexpected or tease a story without finishing it right away, you engage people's natural curiosity reflex. Their brain needs closure. That drive pulls them deeper into conversation without you ever having to force it. Let's say you're in a conversation and someone asks what you've been up to lately. Instead of saying, "Just work, same old," you say, "Actually, I fell into the weirdest situation last week, completely by accident." Then pause. Most people will instinctively lean in. What happened? And just like that, you've hooked them. Now they're invested. You can use this hack to steer conversations into more interesting territory. If someone asked what you do, say, "Well, technically I work in logistics, but there's one part of the job no one ever expects." Or, "My day job's normal, but I've got a side project that involves eels and a bicycle." It doesn't even matter if it's quirky or professional. The key is to offer a hint, not the full picture. Let them ask. What makes this especially effective is that it invites curiosity without bragging. You're not pushing information, you're setting bait. And when people ask follow-up questions, they're choosing to hear more, which makes them more engaged and emotionally involved in the conversation. The curiosity hook also works wonders in texts, bios, and digital chats. Remind me to tell you the story about the time I got stuck in a bank vault. is 1,000 times more engaging than LOL, nothing much happened today. When you drop a well-placed hook, you set up the next interaction before it even begins. That said, don't overdo it. If you constantly tease and never deliver, people will stop biting. A good hook leads to a satisfying story or insight. And if you deliver on that, they'll keep coming back. Use your hooks like lures, not traps. So next time someone asks you something basic, don't just answer. Bend it, tease it, let them tug on the thread. Because once curiosity's awake, connection is only a question away. The eye contact lock-in. Some people talk, and you forget them before they've even walked away. Others speak just a few words, and you remember them vividly. Often, it's not about what they said. It's about how they said it. One of the most subtle, powerful ways to leave an unforgettable impression is through the eye contact lock-in. This isn't about staring, it's about holding just a moment longer than expected, and doing it with warmth, not pressure. The average person makes and breaks eye contact constantly, darting away after 1 or 2 seconds. But if you can stay just long enough for someone to register that you're fully present, they feel it, deeply. Let's say you're meeting someone for the first time. While shaking hands or exchanging greetings, you hold their gaze for a second longer, not with intensity, but with softness and stillness. You're signaling, I'm here, I see you. That extra second can shift the whole tone of the conversation. It creates a sense of gravity. They feel anchored in your presence. Why does this work so well? Eye contact is ancient. Long before language, humans used gaze to assess trust, emotion, and threat. Sustained eye contact releases oxytocin, the bonding chemical, when it's mutual and comfortable. It's how we subconsciously test emotional connection. But here's the key. It has to match your energy. If you're too intense, it feels invasive. If you break too quickly, it feels insecure. The sweet spot is calm focus. Use your eyes not to challenge, but to listen. During a story someone's telling, hold their gaze through their emotional peaks. When you're speaking, land your key point by holding eye contact, right as you say it. This hack also creates presence. It grounds you. You stop fidgeting, looking around, checking your phone. Your full attention turns into a kind of emotional magnet. People feel drawn in, often without knowing why. They'll walk away saying, there was something about you. It even works in group settings. When telling a story to multiple people, lock eyes with one person for a few seconds, then smoothly shift to another. It makes everyone feel included, like you're speaking to them, not just at them. A final bonus, eye contact improves recall. People are more likely to remember what was said, and who said it, when the message is tied to strong visual connection. So whether you're introducing yourself, sharing a truth, or simply listening deeply, use the eye contact lock-in as your silent signature. In a distracted world full of glances, be the one who really sees. The shared enemy bond. There's something primal about us humans. We come together more quickly when there's a common them. That's the core behind the shared enemy bond. A shortcut to emotional connection where two people, or more, feel instantly aligned by disliking, distrusting, or disagreeing with the same thing. It could be a person, an idea, an event, or even a flavor of ice cream. It's not about hate, it's about mutual friction. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean spreading negativity or being toxic. It means recognizing a natural social truth, that opposition creates connection. You might be talking to someone at work and discover you both think a new policy is pointless. Suddenly, you're not just co-workers, you're on the same team. A subtle alliance is formed. It can be as small as disliking pineapple on pizza, or as big as sharing frustration about a public issue. When used thoughtfully, this bond doesn't divide people, it unites them. You're not gossiping or judging, you're sharing an emotional stance. Something annoys you both, and now you're closer. Psychologists call this coalitional psychology. Our ancestors survived in tribes. Trust formed faster when a group agreed on who to avoid or what to be wary of. Even today, our brains still light up when we find someone who gets why we dislike something. It feels validating. It feels safe. Use this hack with care. If you go too dark or too harsh, it can backfire. The key is to keep the tone light or thoughtful. Man, this app update is driving me crazy. Anyone else feel that? Or, I've never understood the hype around those celebrity gurus. Watch how quickly people nod, laugh, or chime in. This tactic is especially useful in new groups or settings where people feel uncertain. Everyone might be polite and quiet until someone says, "Can we all agree this coffee is awful?" Suddenly the group wakes up. Shared frustration unlocks shared identity. Even online this works. Commenting on a common annoyance, gently, smartly, can spark hundreds of replies and messages. It builds micro-communities around shared disapproval. But here's the real magic. Once the connection is formed, you can shift it toward positive things. The enemy is just the spark. The fire grows when you move into, what do we like instead? That's when real friendships begin. So use the shared enemy bond not to burn bridges, but to light beacons. Little flares that say, you and I, we see the same nonsense. Let's talk. The Openloop Statement. There's a difference between talking to someone and pulling them in. The Openloop Statement is a social hack that does the latter, by leaving just enough unsaid to trigger curiosity and engagement. It's a psychological trick where you say something interesting, but don't fully explain it right away, creating a loop in the listener's mind that begs to be closed. Imagine you're talking to someone and casually say, "That reminds me of the weirdest thing that happened last weekend," and then sip your drink or glance away. Watch how fast they ask, "Wait, what happened?" Their brain is now hooked. That's the open loop in action. The reason this works is because humans are wired for closure. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete information more than complete ones. When someone starts a story and doesn't finish it, your brain doesn't like the gap. It wants to fill it, so you stay present, waiting for the payoff. This can be used in conversation, storytelling, texting, even public speaking. When introducing a topic, instead of laying it all out, start with a teaser. I learned something yesterday that completely changed the way I see arguments. Then pause. You don't need dramatic flair. The silence does the work. The listener leans in. They need to know. The key is to deliver eventually. You can't dangle mystery forever. That turns into frustration. But if you time it right, open loops make people more attentive, more engaged, and more emotionally invested in what you're saying. You can even stack open loops. Say, "I've got 2 stories that'll make you rethink friendships. One's funny, the other's kind of spooky. Which one do you want first?" Now they're hooked on both before you've even begun. This tactic is powerful in building attraction, curiosity, and even suspense in casual banter. Just remember, don't use it manipulatively. Use it with playfulness and real substance behind the mystery. In a world where most conversations are flat and over-explained, the open loop statement leaves just enough open space for someone to step into. So instead of pouring it all out, try leaving a door half open and let their curiosity do the rest. The pause power play. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. In a world addicted to fast replies, filler words, and constant noise, mastering the pause power play can make you unforgettable. This hack is all about using intentional silence to elevate your words, take control of the tempo, and create presence that pulls others in. You've probably seen someone do this. maybe in a movie or during a powerful speech. They say something meaningful, then pause. Just wait. And suddenly, the room leans in. The silence isn't awkward, it's charged. That's the pause at work. In conversation, it works like magic. Imagine you're telling someone, "You know what I realized about people who always seem confident?" Then you pause, a beat, maybe two. Watch how fast their attention sharpens. They'll hang on the next thing you say because you created tension and space. Your words feel heavier, more important. Even if what you say next is simple, it lands harder. Pauses also buy you time to think. People often rush their thoughts, fearing silence. But when you use silence with confidence, it signals authority. It shows that you're not nervous, that you're in control of the moment. In business meetings, negotiations, or even debates, this silence becomes a form of subtle dominance, calm, controlled, and centered. There's also a psychological angle. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with silence. We try to fill it, so when you pause, especially after asking a question or making a point, people often rush to respond or explain. You draw them out without pressuring them. You don't chase the moment, you let it come to you. But here's where it becomes truly powerful. The pause amplifies emotion. Let's say you're telling a personal story, something painful, funny, or profound. Well-placed pauses give space for the listener to feel, to catch up, to breathe with you. It's a rhythm, not a race. Of course, it's not about being theatrical. You don't want to overdo it or pause every few seconds. That's unnatural. Instead, think of the pause like punctuation. You use it where it matters, right before the punchline, right after a truth, or when you want the next words to land with impact. Practice this by consciously slowing down your speech. Leave space between key points. Get comfortable with brief silences. They'll feel long at first, but to the listener, they feel focused. In the end, the pause power play turns words into weight. In a sea of constant chatter, silence becomes strength. Don't be afraid to speak less. Be brave enough to make your words breathe. The first laugh wins. In every new social interaction, there's a subtle tension, a quiet test of how safe, fun, or open this person might be. And the one who breaks that tension with the first laugh, they win. That's the core of this hack. The first laugh wins is all about being the one who opens the door to humor first, and with it, lowers everyone's defenses. Think about it. When you walk into a group, especially one that's new to you, people are guarded. They're reading the room. They're polite. They're measuring. But the second someone chuckles, snorts, or cracks a light joke that lands, boom, walls drop. The social temperature rises. People relax. The space becomes human again. This hack doesn't mean you have to be a stand-up comedian. It just means you're willing to go first, to make yourself a little silly, a little open, a little disarmed. Even laughing at yourself is powerful. You say, "I just tried to act like I knew what I was doing with that coffee machine and it sprayed me like it knew I was faking." Simple. Relatable. The room softens. There's science behind this. Laughter releases endorphins and oxytocin, chemicals that create connection and trust. When you get someone to laugh, or even smile with you, their brain starts categorizing you as safe, likable, familiar. Even a shared awkward moment that you laugh at first becomes a bonding moment. But here's the twist. It's not just about making others laugh. It's also about being the first to laugh at someone else's joke, if it's decent. This signals receptivity and warmth. It tells the speaker, "Hey, I like this vibe." And when you do that, you invite others into that emotional space too. Timing matters. You don't throw out jokes non-stop. You wait for the right window, the intro chat, the first silence, the early moments of a meeting or hangout. Then you drop a comment with a grin, a light observation, or just an exaggerated reaction. Something to make someone go, "That was funny, I like this person." And if it flops, Own it. Say, okay, not my best material, and chuckle anyway. That recovery itself is funny. You're still the first to laugh. You still win. So whether you're meeting someone new, joining a group, or walking into a tense setting, remember this. The first laugh doesn't just break the ice, it melts it. And when you're the one holding the warmth, people gravitate toward your glow. The mutual compliment swap. Most people enjoy compliments, but few know how to create a moment that makes both people feel elevated at the same time. That's where the mutual compliment swap comes in. It's a simple but deeply bonding move where you offer someone a genuine compliment and then use that moment to reflect a shared trait or parallel admiration back toward yourself or the dynamic. This isn't fishing for praise, it's building a circle of mutual appreciation, and it's powerful because it creates emotional symmetry. Here's how it works. You're talking to someone and you say, "I really admire how calm and focused you are. It puts me at ease just being around you." Most people will respond with a thank you and then might add, "Well, I was actually thinking the same about you. You've got this grounded energy too." That's where you accept, smile, and say something like, "Maybe we just bring that out in each other." Now what was a simple compliment turns into a shared identity. You're not just pointing out a trait, you're bonding over it. You're suggesting, we're on the same wavelength. That's why it feels different than a one-sided compliment. It becomes a feedback loop of positive reinforcement. Sometimes it happens naturally. Other times you can guide it by framing the compliment to allow mutual connection. For example, "You seem like the kind of person who really values deep conversation. I feel like I do too, which is probably why this feels easy." You've just complimented them while including yourself, without sounding egotistical. This is especially effective in building rapport quickly. It creates a sense of us, not just "you're cool" or "I'm cool," but we vibe. Humans are tribal by nature, and this swap hits that nerve. It creates a private alliance, even if it only lasts for 5 minutes. It also helps people feel safe to return the compliment without pressure. If they admire something about you, this exchange gives them the space to say it. And that validation, mutual, flowing, human, deepens the connection fast. Use this especially when meeting people one-on-one, dating, or in collaborative settings. Be specific with what you admire. Avoid cliches like, "You're nice." Instead say, "You have a way of making people feel important when you talk to them." And if they say something back, let it land, then reflect it. That's the swap. In short, the mutual compliment. Swap isn't flattery, it's resonance. Two people tuning to the same emotional frequency and hearing something beautiful in the echo. The Reframe Reactor. Some people drain the room with negativity, while others seem to effortlessly shift conversations into light, meaningful, or empowering directions. Those people are likely using what we call the Reframe Reactor, a social technique where you take someone's negative comment or heavy emotion and, rather than shutting it down or sugarcoating it, you gently reframe it into a better lens. This isn't about being fake positive, it's about changing the perspective, not denying the reality. When done right, the person doesn't feel corrected, they feel lifted. Let's say someone says, "I hate that I always overthink everything." Instead of agreeing or minimizing it, you say, "That probably means you really care about getting things right." That kind of awareness can be a strength if you use it with balance. That's a reframe. You didn't dismiss their problem. You offered a new way to look at it, one that gives them power instead of pressure. The trick is to listen deeply and respond without judgment. You acknowledge their frustration, then shift it slightly. "I'm so bad at meeting new people." You probably just need the right kind of people who match your energy. It's gentle, it's subtle, but it's magic. The person walks away feeling better, not because you solved their problem, but because you helped reshape it. This works especially well with self-criticism. People often reveal their insecurities casually. I talk too much. I'm such a mess. I'm always anxious. That's your opening. Not to deny what they feel, but to reflect it back with compassion and context. You're probably more thoughtful than most. Maybe that's why your mind's always on. That's the art of the Reframe Reactor. It also works in group settings. If someone's being a downer, instead of clashing with them, you reframe what they say in a neutral or slightly positive light. This project is a nightmare. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but it's the kind of thing that could actually make a team sharper by the end. You're not being naive. You're redirecting the emotional current. The more natural you make it, the more powerful it becomes. You don't need dramatic shifts, just small pivots that help others feel less stuck, less wrong, and more capable. It's about giving hope without preaching. People love being around those who make them feel smarter, stronger, or more balanced. And if you become someone who's always gently reframing problems into possibilities, complaints into considerations, or flaws into features, you become a quiet source of clarity. Next time someone leans into the negative, don't ignore it. Reframe it. You're not dismissing their reality. You're just showing them a version that hurts a little less and helps a little more. The we language trick. Most people talk in I or you, but the real power lives in we. The we language trick is a social technique that transforms how people feel around you by shifting your words from separate to shared. It turns a simple interaction into a sense of team, alliance, or closeness, even with strangers. Let's say you're chatting with someone about a chaotic event. Most people would say, I hate when that happens to me. But with the we trick, you say, we've all been there. Those days where everything just collapses at once. That one word, we, flips the script. Now you're no longer talking about your life or their problem. You're talking about a shared human experience. This shift matters because we triggers a subconscious sense of belonging. It suggests, we're the same. You're not alone. I'm not judging you. Even if it's someone you've just met, using we creates what psychologists call in-group bias. People naturally trust and prefer those they see as part of their tribe. You can use this in all kinds of ways. On a date? We're really vibing, aren't we? During a group project? We've got a solid flow going here. In conflict? We might be seeing it differently, but we both care about doing this right. Every time you say we, you tighten the emotional thread, but this only works if it's sincere. Don't use it manipulatively. You can't say we when clearly only you benefit. It has to reflect shared experience, shared emotion, or shared intention. It also works well in storytelling. When telling a tale or giving advice, frame it like this. We all get stuck in our heads sometimes, or we've all said something we wish we could take back. These phrases aren't just comforting, they're disarming. They show humility and connection. They make you relatable, not preachy. The we trick is especially powerful when you're in a leadership or influence role. People don't want to feel talked down to. They want to feel talked with. Using we makes your message land with unity. It's no longer, you should do this. It becomes, we've all struggled with this, and here's what helps. Over time, using we more often shapes how people feel around you. They'll say things like, I feel like you get it, or you're easy to talk to. Why? Because you stopped creating distance. You used words to build a bridge. So whether it's a 2-minute chat or a deep conversation, remember, we is more than a word. It's a mirror that shows people they're not alone, and that in your presence, they belong. The secret confession hack. There's a special kind of connection that forms when someone shares a secret. Not always something huge, but something private, playful, or vulnerable. That's what makes the secret confession hack so powerful. It's when you share a small confession early in a conversation that feels just risky enough to be personal, but safe enough to be smart. It triggers instant intimacy. This works because we're conditioned to value trust. When someone opens up to you, even about something silly, it signals, "I feel safe enough with you to let my guard down." Most people are tired of surface talk. A well-placed confession, it cuts through the static. For example, imagine you're getting to know someone and you say, "Okay, I'll admit something. I'm ridiculously bad at directions. Like I once got lost in my own apartment building." That's not heavy, it's not fake, it's funny and self-aware. It humanizes you, and almost always the other person responds with something like, "Oh my God, same," or, "You know what I've done?" And now you've entered a deeper layer of connection. The key is choosing the right kind of confession. Don't overshare, especially early on. Avoid trauma, drama, or anything too intense. Start with light flaws, quirks, guilty pleasures, or harmless oddities. "I'm terrible at remembering birthdays. I cry at Pixar movies every single time. I sometimes pretend I understand wine, but I don't." These build rapport, not discomfort. This hack creates reciprocity. People feel a subconscious urge to meet your vulnerability with their own. That back and forth is what builds closeness. The relationship speeds up, not because you're forcing it, but because you both chose to go a little deeper. And don't underestimate the timing. Dropping a secret too early can feel too late, and it feels calculated. The sweet spot is when the energy feels open, when the person is already engaged, but things are still light. That's when you say, "Okay, I've got a random confession." It even works in text. Sending a playful, guilty admission early in a chat thread sets a tone of openness. "I judge people a little when they don't like dogs. Is that terrible?" Or, "I secretly love watching cooking shows even though I can't cook." These aren't just comments, they're invitations. The best part? These tiny secrets become anchors. They're referenced later, joked about, remembered. "Don't get lost again," or "You and your Pixar tears." You've now created a micro-history, a shared thread. So whenever you want to deepen a connection, skip the polished script. Drop a secret. Small, true, a little brave. And just like that, you're not strangers anymore. The curated vulnerability drop. There's a line between being open and oversharing. Some people cross it, others never get close enough. But those who master the curated vulnerability drop can build real connection fast. Not by telling everything, but by revealing just enough of something real to spark trust and emotional resonance. The trick is in the word curated. You're not spilling secrets. You're selecting a personal detail that says, "I'm not hiding," without making the other person uncomfortable or overwhelmed. It's vulnerability with boundaries, and it makes you feel real, human, and emotionally available. Let's say you're talking to someone about relationships, and you casually say, "I'm always drawn to people who seem confident on the outside, but then I realize I'm usually trying to fix someone instead of loving them." That's not trauma, it's not oversharing, it's just real. It signals self-awareness, a little humility, and something they can connect with, or reflect back. The key to this hack is timing and tone. You don't drop vulnerability into small talk. You wait for a warm moment, maybe after they've said something honest, or when the conversation naturally drifts into something deeper. Then, you share. Not to hijack the conversation, not to impress, just to connect. Why does this work? Because we're wired to trust those who show some of their inner world. It's a social signal. I don't have my armor all the way up. Most people are used to hearing filters, not feelings. So when someone speaks from a more honest place, even briefly, it catches attention and opens hearts. Here's what it's not: a performance. If you use this as a strategy to manipulate, it backfires. People can sense fake vulnerability. That's why the drop has to be real, something you've thought about, lived through, or still carry a little weight around. And yet, it doesn't have to be heavy. You can say, "Sometimes I feel like I'm too much for people. Like I think too much, feel too much." That's not dramatic. It's just human. And chances are the person you're talking to will say, "I've felt that too." Now you're not just talking, you're relating. The curated vulnerability drop also works in leadership. If you're in charge of a team and you admit, "I get nervous before big presentations too," even after all these years, your team doesn't lose respect, they gain it. You've made yourself human, and human leaders inspire loyalty. If you want to deepen a moment or connect faster, don't perform. Don't overshare. Just pick one honest, unpolished truth and let it fall gently into the conversation. That's the drop. And when done right, it lands like a soft but solid stone in still water, sending ripples that reach deep. The repeat and restore technique. Ever said something and then noticed the other person totally missed it? Or worse, misunderstood it? That moment can derail a conversation or leave things feeling weird. But there's a clever social tool to fix it smoothly without friction: the repeat and restore technique. This hack is all about repeating what you said. Not identically, but in a slightly different, clearer, or more emotionally attuned way. It's the art of recognizing that something didn't land, and instead of moving on or doubling down, you restore the moment by realigning your words. Let's say you're telling a story and you say, "It just felt like I was invisible," and the other person kind of nods but looks unsure. Instead of letting that awkwardness fester, you repeat and restore. I mean, not invisible like no one saw me, but more like I wasn't being heard. You didn't change the meaning, you clarified the feeling. And with that, they usually go, "Oh, I get that." This technique builds empathy and prevents miscommunication. We often assume people interpret what we say the way we intended, but tone, energy, or timing can distort the message. So the repeat and restore move keeps the connection clean. It also shows emotional intelligence. You're not just talking at someone, you're tuning to them. You're watching their signals and adjusting as you go. That flexibility makes people trust you more. They feel safe knowing that if something doesn't click, you'll fix it with care instead of frustration. This move also works when conversations get tense. If someone misunderstands your intention, instead of defending it, try restoring it. "That's not really what I meant. Let me say it better. I was trying to say I felt excluded, not blaming anyone." It's calm, it's clear, and it restores harmony. You can even use this technique proactively. If you said something important and you're not sure it was received fully, you circle back. "Sorry, I kind of mumbled that. What I meant was, I really appreciated what you said earlier. It stuck with me." That's not weak, that's intentional communication. And when someone else is unclear, you can help them do the same. If they say, "I don't know, it's just weird," you can say, "Weird how? Like uncomfortable? Or just unfamiliar?" You're helping them restore their own message by offering clarity options. The repeat and restore technique creates smoother, smarter, kinder conversations. It replaces confusion with clarity and helps you build bridges instead of dropping words into silence. So when something doesn't quite land, don't panic. Just breathe, rewind, and restore. Because great communication isn't about being perfect. It's about being attuned enough to repair in real time. The default to depth move. Most people stay in the shallow end of conversation. Small talk, safe topics, predictable scripts. But the ones who leave a lasting impression, they default to depth. That's what this hack is about. Training yourself to casually steer conversations into more meaningful waters, using the default to depth move. This doesn't mean turning every chat into a life philosophy debate. It just means asking better questions, offering richer answers, and showing a genuine interest in what matters beneath the surface. You stop asking, "What do you do?" and start asking, "What part of your work actually energizes you?" That one shift changes the entire tone. Imagine you're meeting someone new and they mention they're tired from work. Instead of replying, "Yeah, same," you say, "Do you feel like it's the work that's exhausting, or the way you're doing it right now?" It's subtle, it's respectful, but it opens a door. The key to this hack is intention. You're not trying to interrogate or impress. You're just choosing depth by default. You assume people want to talk about things that mean something, but often don't get the chance unless someone invites them. It also applies to the answers you give. When someone asks, "How's your week been?" instead of busy, try pretty intense. "I've been thinking a lot about whether I'm spending my time in ways that actually matter." Boom! You've signaled depth without being dramatic. You've also given them permission to go there too. People often long for real conversations, but they wait for someone else to start. You become that someone. You shift the default setting from surface to substance. The benefits are massive. Deeper conversations create faster trust, stronger memory, and more emotional satisfaction. People walk away feeling like something real happened, even if it was only a 5-minute chat. And here's the beautiful twist. The more you do this, the more people start bringing you deeper topics. They'll say things like, "I don't usually talk about this, but that's the gold. That's where you live now." So default to depth, not all the time, but often enough that people feel seen, heard, and stirred. In a world built on noise and fluff, you become the signal, and that's what people never forget. The micro-mirror response. In everyday life, people crave to feel understood, not just heard, but felt. That's where the micro-mirror response comes in, a technique so subtle and natural that it often goes unnoticed, yet it makes conversations feel smooth, connected, and strangely intimate. The secret lies in repeating just a small part of what someone said, with tone, tempo, or phrasing, to reflect it back emotionally. Let's say someone says, "I've just been feeling really drained this week." Most people reply with something like, "Oh yeah, me too." But the micro-mirror response would be more like, "Drained, huh?" or "Long week," or even just repeating, softly, "Really drained." You're not mocking, you're matching, reflecting their words in a way that says, "I'm right here with you." This hack works because humans are emotional mirrors. When we hear someone echo back what we've just expressed, not in a robotic way but in a resonant way, our nervous system reads it as validation. It triggers the brain to feel safer and more bonded. Even single words work. Someone says, "Ugh, I bombed that interview." You nod, lower your tone slightly, and say, "Bombed." Then pause. They'll often expand, now feeling seen. It's not about analysis or fixing, you're simply holding space. What makes this powerful is how little it takes. You don't have to understand everything the person's going through. You just have to show them you're with them in it. That shared rhythm, even through a simple mirrored word or phrase, creates connection faster than any advice ever could. But this isn't only for deep conversations. It works in light banter too. If someone says, "I'm obsessed with mango smoothies lately," you can mirror back with a smile. "Mango smoothies, huh?" It adds texture to the exchange, like a conversational dance move that says, "I'm paying attention." This technique also softens conflict. If someone's frustrated and says, "I just feel like no one's listening to me," a mirrored reply could be, "You feel like no one's really hearing you." That echo soothes. It makes the person feel less alone in their emotion. It's subtle, Yes, but it's also trust building. People leave those interactions thinking, they get me, even if you said almost nothing new. Because it's not about new information, it's about emotional reflection. So whether you're deep in conversation or just starting to build rapport, try micro-mirroring. Match a phrase, echo a feeling, reflect a rhythm. It's quiet power, and in the right moment it hits louder than any clever comment could. The priming compliment. Some compliments land, others transform. That's the power of the priming compliment. A type of praise you give before a person shows a quality in a way that inspires them to rise into it. You're not just complimenting what someone is, you're gently suggesting what they can be, and when done right, they step into it almost automatically. Here's how it works. Let's say you're about to work with someone on a task. You might say, "You've got that calm presence." People naturally feel at ease with you. Even if they weren't feeling particularly calm that day, that compliment primes them to act more calmly, because now it's part of how they've just been seen. It's a mirror they don't want to break. The science behind this is rooted in expectation bias. When people believe they're being perceived a certain way, they're more likely to behave in alignment with that image. You say, "You're the kind of person who always finds the right words," and suddenly, they do. This technique is incredibly effective in first impressions, leadership, flirting, even parenting. Instead of giving praise after something is done, you give a compliment that sets the tone. You're gently guiding someone into their higher self and making it feel natural. It's also powerful because it shows confidence in the other person. You're not asking them to prove anything. You're already acting like it's true. That belief, that framing, uplifts people. They feel seen, trusted, capable. But here's the key. It must feel plausible. You can't say something totally off base. It'll come across as fake or manipulative. You want to compliment a potential, not a fantasy. So instead of, "You're the smartest person I've ever met," say, "You strike me as someone who really thinks before they speak." It sounds natural, and it invites alignment. It even works when diffusing tension. If someone's frustrated, you might say, "You've got such a thoughtful way of handling things. I really respect that." Now, instead of continuing to vent, they often slow down, recenter, and act more thoughtful, because you just primed them for it. This technique is especially good for encouraging people who doubt themselves. "You've got a really creative mind. I can already tell." You're not giving advice, you're giving a lens, a label they want to live up to. The priming compliment is subtle, strategic, and deeply human. You're not flattering, you're empowering. You're nudging people toward their better selves just by naming something that might already be there, waiting. So next time you meet someone, don't just tell them who they are, tell them who they could be, and watch how fast they begin to believe it. The conversational callback. A good conversation flows, a great one loops. The conversational callback is a smooth and powerful technique where you casually refer back to something someone said earlier, even if it was 10 minutes or 2 hours ago, and weave it into the present moment. It instantly makes people feel remembered, respected, and more connected to you. Let's say someone told you at the start of a meetup that they hate public speaking. Later, during a group discussion, they make a smart point. You smile and say, "Look at you, Mr. C, I hate public speaking," owning the room. That callback isn't just a joke, it's a mirror that says, "I heard you, I remembered." That one move creates a feeling of emotional warmth and psychological safety. Callbacks are powerful because they activate memory and continuity. Most conversations feel disjointed, topic after topic, with no thread. But when you call something back, you tie the thread. You signal that the interaction is alive, unfolding, not just random bursts of speech. It also shows attentiveness. People love when someone remembers a detail they said. especially something they didn't expect to be remembered. You mentioned earlier you're into old jazz records. I saw a vinyl store on the way here and thought of you. Boom, you just became memorable. This technique also deepens humor and flirtation. If someone joked earlier that they're terrible at small talk, and then later they're chatting away, you can say, "Careful, you're about to lose your terrible at small talk badge." It's light, it's personalized, and it proves you were listening. And here's the bonus. Callbacks create emotional resonance. By looping back to something personal, you make the conversation feel shared, not transactional. It feels like a story instead of a scene. People leave those conversations thinking, "That just felt good." To use this well, keep mental bookmarks during your conversations. If someone says something unique, revealing, or funny, hold on to it. Then, when the right moment comes, drop the callback naturally. It shouldn't feel forced. It should feel like you're picking up a thread that was never lost. The beauty of the conversational callback is that it's small, but it signals something big. You were present. And in a distracted world, that's rare. So next time someone says something interesting, don't just let it fade. File it, then circle back. Because sometimes, the most meaningful thing you can say is what they already told you. The finish their thought feeler. There's a unique chemistry that happens when someone pauses mid-sentence, and you gently complete their thought exactly right. That flash of, "Whoa, you just read my mind," builds instant rapport. This is the power of the finish their thought feeler, a conversational tool that makes people feel deeply understood, as if you're tuned into the same inner frequency. This doesn't mean interrupting or dominating. It's not guessing or rushing. It's a quiet, intuitive nudge, where, based on what someone's saying, you carefully finish their sentence in a way that's natural and aligned. If done with empathy, this technique makes people feel not just heard, but mirrored. For example, imagine someone says, "I've been trying to find the right moment to talk to my boss about," and then trails off. If you softly say, "Not wanting to take on that extra workload again," and you're spot on, you've just built a bridge. They don't need to spell it out. You filled in the blank with emotional accuracy. Why does this work? Because it activates a sense of mental synchronization. Our brains love when someone completes a pattern we're forming. It suggests we're on the same page, which fosters trust, familiarity, and even affection. But here's the trick. You must be sensitive. Don't jump in unless the person is clearly searching for the word, or unless their body language invites it. If someone's telling a story with energy, let them go. But when someone is unsure, pausing, or emotionally exposed, that's your moment to feel into it. This also works in deeper conversations. If a friend says, "I think I'm afraid of failing because," and you offer, then it confirms the worst things you've believed about yourself. That level of insight hits like a truth they hadn't fully said aloud. And when someone feels seen like that, they open up more. It's also a bonding tool in romantic or flirtatious settings. When you finish someone's sentence and they smile with that, "How did you know?" Look, you're not just being clever. You're creating sync, like two radios tuning into the same song. The technique isn't about showing off. It's about listening deeply and offering a felt connection. You're saying, "I get where you're going. I'm here with you." Sometimes you'll be slightly off, and that's okay. Even trying can be endearing, as long as it's respectful. When you use this skill consistently, people begin to relax around you. They feel like they don't have to explain everything, like you just get it. And that, more than polished words or charming stories, is what real connection is made of. The conversational anchor drop. People forget facts, they forget names, but they remember moments, especially moments where a conversation felt like it circled back to something important, something personal. The conversational anchor drop is a subtle technique where you bring back a meaningful or emotional point from earlier in the conversation, right at the end, to leave a lasting emotional echo. It's simple. During any interaction, notice something the other person cared about, a goal, a worry, a funny detail, and then, as the conversation winds down, drop that anchor again. Not as a big speech, just a closing touch, a gesture that says, "I didn't forget." Say someone opened up earlier about being nervous before an interview. As you say goodbye, you might add, "Hey, seriously, good luck with that interview. You've got this." That line feels warm, connected. They walk away thinking, "Wow, they really listened." Why does this matter? Because the end of a conversation carries the heaviest emotional weight. It's what sticks. By anchoring your goodbye to something personal from the beginning or middle, you create a loop, a sense of narrative, intention, and real attention. This works in romantic chats too. If someone mentioned loving storms earlier and you're texting later that night when it starts raining, you say, "Storms rolling in, thought of you." You've anchored them into that moment, tied them to something small but emotionally sticky. In groups, this move sets you apart. People talk all night and forget most of it. But if someone remembers that you followed up on the one meaningful thing they said, it cuts through the noise. Anchors don't need to be emotional, they can be playful too. Someone joked about being bad at names. As you part say, "All right, I won't forget your name. Don't forget mine." You're not just ending a chat. You're writing the closing line to a short shared story. When used thoughtfully, anchor drops show that you were present, not just passing time. And in a world where attention is scattered, that presence is powerful. The mood match momentum. Every conversation has a temperature, a mood, a pace, a rhythm. Some people ignore it and talk right over it. Others match it first and then gently lead it where they want to go. That's the essence of the mood match momentum, a skillful way to guide a conversation by starting where the other person is emotionally and then slowly shifting the tone upward. Let's say someone's in a low energy state, tired, distracted, maybe even moody. Instead of jumping in with high energy questions or jokes, you match them with calmness. You say, "Long day," or "You look like your brain's still catching up." That's a match. You're syncing to their pace. Then, once you're in rhythm, you lead. You slowly introduce more positive energy, lighter topics, or engaging questions. Bit by bit, you guide the emotional current without them even realizing it. And because you started where they were, not where you wanted them to be, they trust the shift. This technique is rooted in something called pacing and leading, a communication method used in therapy, negotiation, and even hypnosis. It starts with alignment, then introduces change. You build momentum together. It also applies to humor. If someone's tense, you don't blast them with sarcasm. You mirror their concern, then gradually introduce a lightness. Yeah, that does sound rough. But hey, at least you didn't spill coffee on your white shirt this morning like I did. Now the tone's shifting, and they're more likely to smile, even laugh. You can even use this in digital conversations. If someone replies dry or slow, you don't hit them with 5 excited texts. You send something soft, neutral, or matching. Then, as energy rises, you rise with it. This tactic isn't manipulation, it's emotional attunement. It shows that you're not forcing your vibe onto others. You're tuning into theirs, and then gently elevating it, moment by moment. People rarely remember everything you say, but they always remember how it felt to be around you. If you become someone who knows how to meet people where they are, and make them feel better by the end, they'll want to stay in your orbit. The intentional interruption. Most people see interruption as rude, and often it is. But there's a rare, strategic version of it that actually deepens the connection rather than breaking it. That's called the intentional interruption, a precise move where you break in not to steal the spotlight, but to amplify the moment. Picture this. Someone's telling a story and they're clearly nervous. They ramble, hesitate, or downplay something. You gently interject with, "Wait, that part right there, that's incredible." You're not cutting them off to change the subject. You're interrupting to highlight something they missed, dismiss, or mumbled past. You're stepping in as a validator. This kind of interruption works because it creates an emotional checkpoint. The person pauses, often surprised, and realizes you were really listening. Not only that, but you cared enough to stop the flow, to shine light on a moment they almost skipped. It becomes their moment again, but with more confidence. It also works when someone's spiraling, venting about frustration, over-explaining, or tearing themselves down. A sharp but caring interruption can stop the spiral. "Hey, listen to what you just said. That's not nothing. That matters." You're disrupting a negative current with presence and attention. The power of this technique lies in tone and timing. Your energy must feel supportive, not impatient. Your voice lowers, softens, or sharpens, depending on what the moment needs. And you don't keep talking. You interrupt, elevate, and then let them re-enter the story. They usually do with more self-belief than before. This move is also powerful in group settings. When someone's being overlooked or talks too quietly, you can interrupt the group's rhythm to say, "Hang on, what you just said is actually really good." That brief spotlight shifts the energy. It protects the person's voice while uplifting their input. The intentional interruption isn't about dominance. It's about redirection. You're steering the emotional wheel toward value, clarity, or grounding. You're essentially saying, "This deserves more attention than it's getting." Used rarely, it becomes a trusted tool. Used too often, it loses power. That's why this isn't something you do casually. It's a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. When people experience it, they don't remember being interrupted. They remember being seen. The playful disarm. You don't always need deep talk or emotional vulnerability to connect. Sometimes, levity itself becomes the bridge. That's where the playful disarm comes in. A technique where you use light teasing, humor, or unexpected banter to gently knock someone off guard in a way that brings them closer, not pushes them away. Here's the secret. People carry invisible tension, social pressure, performance anxiety, self-image concerns. All of it weighs them down. But when someone throws a harmless, playful jab that acknowledges their humanity with a wink, the tension breaks. It's like letting a little air out of a too tight balloon. For example, if someone is clearly trying to sound impressive, you might smile and say, "Okay, Mr. Nobel Prize, slow down." It's not mocking, it's not cruel, it's affectionate, and it lets them exhale, because they realize they don't have to keep performing around you. This technique also works beautifully in flirting. If someone tries a cheesy pickup line and you respond with, "Wow, straight out of the romance handbook, huh?" You're not rejecting. You're reframing the moment as something fun, shared, and human. But the playful disarm isn't just about being funny. It's about lowering barriers. When done with the right energy, relaxed, smiling, and warm, it signals safety. You're saying, "We don't have to take ourselves so seriously here. We're just two humans talking." Tone is everything. If your voice or face carries judgment, it turns into sarcasm or snark. But if your voice says, "I like you and I know this is awkward, so let's laugh together," you become charming instead of challenging. This is also a brilliant way to pivot when someone's tense or moody. Let's say your friend is stressing over a tiny error they made at work. You might say, "Great, guess we'll have to exile you from civilization now." They laugh, lighten up, and the mood lifts. Used skillfully, This technique creates emotional balance. It shows others you don't just listen, you know how to guide the energy. And in social dynamics, being the person who can disarm discomfort is a superpower. What makes the playful disarm memorable is that people leave the interaction lighter than they came in. That's rare, and they'll associate that relief with you, a person who helped them breathe. The same side switch. Arguments, debates, and disagreements don't always come from actual conflict. They often come from framing. If someone feels like you're on the opposite side, even neutral conversations can turn defensive. But with the same side switch, you reframe the moment so it's no longer you versus them. It's us versus the problem. This technique is subtle, yet wildly effective. Instead of saying, "You're not getting it," you say, "I think we're just looking at this from different sides, but we want the same outcome." Instead of, "That's not right," you say, "I see what you're aiming for. Maybe we can figure out a version that works for both of us." These phrases shift the emotional terrain. They remove the imaginary line between my position and your position, and put both of you on the same team. That's disarming, not confrontational. It signals that you care more about connection than being right. Even in light disagreements, the same side switch helps. If someone's annoyed at a mistake, instead of defending yourself, you say, "Totally fair. We both want this to go smoothly, and I dropped the ball." Now, instead of fighting, you're aligning, and people calm down when they feel aligned. This approach works brilliantly in relationships. Let's say your partner says, "You never help with the planning." Instead of reacting, you reply, "I know how important it is for you to feel supported. Let's figure out a way to make sure you feel that more." You're not submitting, you're shifting frames from opposition to unity. The beauty of this move is that it resets the emotional context. You can still hold your opinion, you can still disagree, but when you plant both of you on the same side, the conversation evolves. It becomes solution-oriented rather than defensive. And even if you can't solve the issue right away, the tension drops. That alone changes everything. Because once people stop defending themselves, they start listening. In short, arguments push people apart. The same side switch brings them back together, without compromising your truth. It's a tool that builds bridges, not walls. The "What made you smile today?" opener. We all ask each other, "How are you?" out of habit. And most of the time, we get a default answer, "Fine," "busy," or "tired." Conversations die right there. But when you lead with the question, "What made you smile today?" you break that autopilot and immediately guide the interaction into something real, vivid, and personal. This technique works because it's unexpected but emotionally safe. You're not asking for deep vulnerability or drama. You're simply inviting someone to revisit a positive moment. And most people, even in tough days, can usually think of one thing that lifted their mood. That tiny memory creates a spark. Imagine someone just walked into your orbit, a coworker, a classmate, a first date, and instead of, "How was your day?" you say, "What made you smile today?" They blink, pause, think. Then they tell you about something, their dog, a song, a funny moment. And now, you're not just talking. You're feeling something together. That's the key. You didn't ask about their job or schedule. You asked about an emotion, and emotions are what people remember. People forget facts, but they remember how someone made them feel. This opener sends the message, "I want to know what lights you up, not just what fills your time." You also learn a lot quickly. What someone chooses to share tells you about their humor, their values, their energy. You get a glimpse of their internal world, even if it's brief. That's a much stronger foundation than small talk. And if someone struggles to think of anything, it gives you a chance to brighten their day. Well, maybe this moment'll count. I'm pretty good at giving people their first laugh of the afternoon. Now you're creating that smile yourself. That's connection in real time. You don't have to use this line word for word. You can tweak it. What was the highlight of your day? Or, anything fun happened to you today? But the essence is the same. Bypass default, aim for delight. Use this opener a few times and watch how conversations evolve. People open up quicker, energy lifts. The interaction feels warm, curious, human, like something outside the script of everyday life. The delayed compliment drop. Most compliments come at the start of a conversation, or awkwardly shoved into a moment where they're expected. But the delayed compliment drop works by reversing the usual rhythm. You hold back your praise, gather natural context through conversation, and then drop the compliment later, right before leaving or after a significant moment. Let's say you're chatting with someone who clearly has a great sense of humor. Instead of complimenting them right away, you let the conversation flow. You laugh, react, respond. Then, as you're wrapping up, you say, "By the way, you're actually hilarious. It's been a long time since I laughed like that." Boom. That delayed drop hits harder because it feels earned. Here's why this works. Timing amplifies meaning. When you give a compliment too early, it can feel generic or rehearsed, like part of a routine. But when you wait, you create contrast. The person didn't see it coming, and that surprise makes it feel genuine. The delay also gives you time to tailor the compliment to something specific. Instead of saying, "You're smart," you say, "You explain things in such a clear way. I actually understand it now." It's personalized praise, grounded in shared experience. That lands deeper. This technique works in dating, networking, friendships, everywhere. Imagine a date that went well. At the very end, as you're parting ways, you smile and say, "You're even more interesting than I expected." That one sentence can linger for days. It creates emotional resonance because it wraps the entire conversation in a warm afterglow. It also avoids the pressure some compliments bring. When given too early, compliments can make people feel like they now have to live up to something. But when it comes after comfort has been established, it feels more like recognition than reward. The delayed compliment drop works best when paired with presence. Don't give it out of obligation. Give it as a genuine reflection of something you noticed or felt. And keep it simple. The more natural it sounds, the more real it feels. This approach leaves people with a sense of being seen, but in a way that feels subtle, intentional, and lasting. The strategic pause. Silence makes people uncomfortable. That's why most conversations are filled with filler words, interruptions, or rushed answers. But the strategic pause uses silence as a tool, not a gap. It's the deliberate use of a short, intentional silence just before or after key moments to create impact, draw attention, or invite depth. Here's what it looks like. Someone asks you a question, and instead of answering right away, you take a beat, maybe two. You nod slightly, then reply slowly. That pause makes people lean in. It tells them, "You're thinking." You're not just reacting, you're responding with intention. This technique works because silence amplifies signal. In a world of noise, the absence of immediate chatter makes your words seem more valuable. Politicians, actors, therapists, and negotiators use this constantly. That moment of pause sets a different rhythm, one that feels calmer, more powerful. It also gives your listener space to process. When you pause after saying something important, it lets the weight of your words settle. For example, saying, "That's the first time I've admitted that out loud," followed by silence, makes the moment land harder than if you just kept going. You can also use the pause in conflict. If someone's upset and you pause before replying, it shows you're not reacting emotionally. You're absorbing. That diffuses tension. It invites the other person to feel heard and opens the door for more grounded dialogue. But the pause isn't just about performance. It creates mental space, a pause between stories, a breath before a question, a moment of silence after laughter. These small breaks create rhythm. They give conversations texture and make you stand out as someone who doesn't just speak well, but listens better. Even in text or digital communication, the same principle applies. You don't have to reply instantly. A moment of delay, especially before responding with something thoughtful, makes the interaction feel considered, not mechanical. The strategic pause is subtle, underused, often unnoticed, except in how people feel around it. They don't say, "Wow, you paused at the right time." They just feel like you're present, grounded, and carrying real weight. Sometimes what you don't say right away says more than any clever sentence ever could. Here are detailed, fresh, and original breakdowns of social hacks 34 to 36, each in narrative form, approximately 500 plus words, with natural pacing and unique conclusions, no repetition. The quiet cosign. In any group setting, not everyone wants to speak up. Some people sit back, silently holding thoughts, unsure if they'll be heard or understood. The quiet cosign is a subtle but powerful social move that helps elevate those quieter voices, without stealing their moment. It works like this. Someone makes a point, maybe a thoughtful one, but no one reacts. There's a beat of silence. Most people move on, but you don't. You nod, lean slightly in, and say something like, "That's actually a really good point," or even just, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense." You just co-signed their thought, and now it lives. This tiny gesture shifts group dynamics. You didn't dominate. You didn't redirect attention to yourself. You simply validated, and in doing so, you made the person feel seen, and you signaled to others, "Hey, that idea is worth pausing for." This isn't about exaggeration. You don't need to praise everything. The quiet cosign only works when it's authentic. When someone brings value, insight, or even vulnerability, and it's at risk of being ignored, you anchor it by reacting. The power of this move is in its minimalism. Just a phrase, a nod, a look. It tells the speaker, you're not invisible, and in a room full of voices, that can mean everything. It's also an incredible leadership trait. A good leader doesn't always lead with their voice. Sometimes they lead by spotlighting others. That simple cosign boosts team morale, confidence, and respect. This also strengthens trust. When people realize you're not only listening, but also supporting others in small but real ways, they gravitate toward you. You're the person who sees what others miss. You're the ally without the spotlight. And even outside of groups, in one-on-one interactions, a well-timed cosign reinforces connection. Someone says something meaningful, and you pause, smile, and reply, "Yeah, I really feel that." You're not analyzing or shifting the topic. You're meeting them exactly where they are. The quiet cosign doesn't make the conversation about you. It makes it richer for everyone. And people walk away remembering that they didn't just talk, they were heard. The curiosity cascade. There's a moment in every good conversation where one question opens the door, and then another, and another. That's the curiosity cascade, a chain of thoughtful, layered questions that unfold naturally, showing the person that your interest in them isn't surface level. It's genuine, ongoing, and alive. Most people stop after one or two getting to know you questions. Where are you from? What do you do? And then it fizzles, but the cascade digs deeper. It listens for what the person cares about and keeps following those threads, like you're tracking the spark behind their words. For example, someone says they're into photography. Instead of, "That's cool," you ask, "What kind of stuff do you love capturing most?" They say, nature, mostly. You continue. Is it more about the stillness of it or the unpredictability? Now they're thinking, reflecting, sharing something deeper than a label. The cascade works because it honors depth. And when someone feels your curiosity growing as they talk, they start to reveal more. They drop their filters. They shift from explaining to expressing. It becomes a journey instead of a Q&A. But there's an art to it. You can't rapid-fire questions. You have to weave them in with presence. Nod, respond, share something of your own. Then slide in the next question. Something slightly more personal, slightly more surprising. It's not about interrogation. It's about discovering who someone really is, layer by layer, and it works in every context. Dates, friendships, networking, because people are starved for curiosity. Not the shallow kind, the kind that stays. This method also builds incredible trust. People feel seen, appreciated, and safe to open up. Even if they don't know why, they'll feel a pull toward you, because curiosity like this is rare. You don't need perfect questions. You just need to listen, really listen, and follow the trail of what lights them up. That's the cascade. You're not guiding them. You're walking beside them, discovering together. And long after the conversation ends, what stays with them isn't the questions you asked. It's the feeling of having been genuinely explored. The status slide. Every social situation comes with invisible power dynamics. Sometimes you're the expert, the confident one, the leader. Other times you're new, unsure, or low in status. The status slide is the intentional ability to move up or down that invisible ladder, to match others, relieve pressure, or elevate someone else. Here's the key. Status isn't about money or fame. It's about energy and control in the moment. If someone's nervous around you and you joke about your own clumsy side, you're sliding your status down, making them feel safer. If someone's spiraling and you calmly take charge, you're sliding it up, grounding the space. This fluidity is what makes great communicators stand out. They don't freeze at one level, they adjust based on what the situation and the other person need. Let's say you're speaking with someone who feels insecure. If you stay in impressive mode, showing off knowledge or charm, you might push them deeper into their shell. But if you say something lightly self-deprecating, or even ask for their opinion on something they know, you slide your status down. Suddenly, they relax. They open up. Now you're equals. On the flip side, sometimes someone's panicking or lost. If you stay low energy or hesitant, they spiral further. But if you calmly say, "Here's what we're going to do," and take the lead, you slide up, and they stabilize in your presence. The real art lies in doing this without ego. You don't lower yourself to please people. You lower to create comfort. You don't rise to dominate. You rise to guide. You're not seeking power. You're managing energy. This technique is especially powerful in leadership, mentorship, coaching, and social dynamics, where trust must be built fast. It's what makes people feel like they just get how to talk to anyone, because you're not stuck in one persona. You're adaptable, and people love that, because life isn't about who's above or below. It's about who knows how to meet others where they are, and then shift the whole mood from there. The opener echo close. Some conversations feel like wandering trails. They twist, they loop, they scatter. Others feel like stories, with a start, a build, and a clean, satisfying close. The opener echo close is the technique that gives your interactions that story-like structure by ending with a clever or subtle reference to how it began. Imagine you started a conversation joking about how bad you are with directions. 20 minutes later, after discussing something entirely different, you wrap it up with, "Anyway, I should probably go before I take another wrong turn." Literally or otherwise, that line lands. It calls back to the start. It closes the loop. Why does this work? Because it gives the interaction symmetry. Humans love symmetry, in stories, music, even in how we talk. When you bring a conversation full circle, it creates emotional satisfaction. It feels crafted, even if it wasn't planned. This move doesn't require being funny or clever. It can be warm. If someone starts the conversation by mentioning how stressed they are, and at the end, you say, "I hope talking helped take the edge off," even just a little, that's also an opener echo. You're referencing where they were, and gently showing how far they've come in the span of one conversation. You're not just talking anymore, you're bookending an experience. This technique also works beautifully in texts, or DMS. Say someone opened with, "Ugh, I needed a distraction today." After chatting, you close with, "Thanks for letting me be your distraction. I think it helped me too." That soft echo turns casual words into something emotionally textured. It also makes you more memorable. People have dozens of conversations that just fizzle out. No rhythm, no shape. But when you bring it back to the beginning, the entire interaction feels more alive, more intentional, more like something worth remembering. This doesn't mean you need to force a callback. Sometimes the echo is a phrase, sometimes just a reference, or even a mood. If someone started off venting and you end on laughter, you might say, "From chaos to comedy in 20 minutes. That's some magic. That's enough. That's the loop." And in romantic or flirty settings, it's magnetic. Someone says early on that they hate Mondays, and you close hours later with, "For the record, if every Monday came with a conversation like this, I'd stop hating them too." That's charm. Not because it's smooth, but because it's tied to something they said. That shows you cared to remember. Ultimately, the opener echo close works because it transforms a conversation into something cohesive. It feels like you both built something, not just drifted through words. That sense of crafted connection is rare, and people don't forget who gave it to them. Not every interaction needs it, but when you use it, it elevates the whole experience. It signals thoughtfulness, presence, and a feel for moments, not just messages. Connection isn't about being the loudest in the room, the funniest, or even the most confident. It's about being in tune, with the moment, with people, and with the unseen rhythm that runs beneath every social interaction. These 37 hacks weren't just tricks, they were tools, invisible threads that, when pulled with intention, create trust, warmth, and gravity. Some of these techniques are silent, others are playful, some you'll use without words at all, but together they form a kind of social fluency, the ability to shape mood, deepen rapport, and leave people feeling lighter just because you were there. And the beauty? Most people won't even realize what you're doing. They'll just feel it. They'll leave thinking, "That conversation hit different. That's your edge now." So whether you're navigating a first impression, a quiet moment, or a crowded room full of noise, remember, it's not about having the perfect thing to say. It's about knowing how to say it, when to pause, and what to notice. If you found even one of these hacks useful, or if you're ready to go deeper into the art of social mastery, emotional intelligence, and everyday influence, subscribe for more. More hidden psychology, more real-world magic, more tools that feel like cheat codes for life. Your next move could be the one that changes everything. Let's keep sharpening the game, together. Subscribe now to our channel for calm, soothing narration, exploring philosophy, science, psychology, history, and amazing facts. The perfect companion to relax your mind and gently fall asleep.